Okay, everyone, here we go. It's Tuesday at 2, and it's time for Thriving Live with Gabrielle Senza. That is me. And today I have a little bit of a change up for what I usually do here. However, I will share with you. First, I want to welcome you. And first, before that, I want to light my candle. Usually I have this beautiful, full, well, it's a rainbow candle. Perfect for Pride, right? Except now it's only 2 colors left, but I like to start my sessions with a candle burning. And sometimes I even will light some sage, which I meant to do earlier, but I didn't get to. So we're doing it now. To bring us into some sacred space to be together here today on this Tuesday, June 14th. This is the 13th episode of Thriving Live. And we are coming to you live on YouTube and in the Zoom land. And the replays are always available over there on YouTube, on the Thriving Live with Gabrielle Senza channel. So you can check it out there. You can subscribe. I'm pretty sure you'll get notifications that I've posted something new. That is kind of all new to me. Basically, to give you an outline, if you're new here, this is a weekly program that features inspirational stories, useful tips, and actionable techniques anyone can use at any time to create a joyful, abundant, healthy life. And these are drawn from my own experience as an artist, an activist, a musician, an entrepreneur, a single parent, and an empowerment coach. I have gone through from barely surviving multiple traumatic experiences in both childhood and adulthood, with a long history of adversity, to living a juicy, abundant life of my own design and thriving in all areas of my life. By sharing what has happened to me in my own personal journey, my aim is to help listeners and viewers. Looking at my notes here, trying to get it lined up more. My aim is to help listeners and viewers shorten the learning curve towards living into the fullest, most expressed version of themselves. That's you. I hope this helps you if you're looking for tips and ways to live a more abundant, juicy life. Here's what you can expect today. First, and today and every day, I always start with pleasure first. I start my workshops, my private sessions, this program, everything I do pretty much with one of the core pillars of my practice as an artist, as a business owner, as a mentor, leader, all the things, which is pleasure. Because why do anything if it's not pleasurable? Even the things that we don't want to do, and even the things that are typically not pleasurable, why not bring some sense of pleasure into it? Make it even 1% better. So that's what this practice helps me do. And it takes lots of different forms. Today it's to help us, well, every day it's to help us arrive in the space and to feel present in the moment and to be open to what shows up organically. So let's begin. You can keep your eyes open or closed. And just take some long, slow, deep breaths. Just whatever's natural and easy for you. A deep breath in and a deep breath slowly drawn out. I like to do a sigh on the last one. So notice, again, you can keep your eyes open or you can close them. Notice what you hear. Just become aware of the senses. We'll go through all 5 senses, but we'll start with, what do you hear? Noticing the sounds that are going on around you, sort of the big sounds out there, maybe on the street, maybe it's an air conditioner, just noticing the sounds that are in your space or outside of your space that you're aware of. Notice sounds that are more subtle. Perhaps you're breathing. Perhaps the hum of a fan in the distance. Perhaps a little bird. Maybe even your heartbeat. Notice what subtle sounds you're able to pick up right now as you settle in deeper and deeper into this time together. Now notice what you feel. How does your skin feel? What do you notice where it touches another part of your body or the seat you're sitting on? Or the feet on the floor? Noticing all the large and small sensations of touch that you can become aware of right now by focusing your attention on your sense of touch and what you're feeling. For me right now, I'm aware of the sweat on my brow, my palms feeling damp and sticky. My hair on my shoulders. Notice what you notice. Notice what you feel, either through touch or noticing sensations inside of you. Maybe you feel tingling sensation or a little ache or some butterflies, or if you're feeling some anxiety, maybe you feel some contraction in your chest. Just noticing, not making them wrong or right, good or bad, no judgment whatsoever on them. We're just noticing, taking our attention from all the things that are going on outside of us and in our lives or in our realm or in the world or in the news. And what we're doing is we're focusing our attention right down into the here and now, into this present moment, into this time and space that we're here together. Continuing to breathe gently, naturally, easily. If you feel inclined to slow your breath down, you are more than welcome and encouraged to do so. But it's not required. You can let it all be easy. Now notice what you can smell. Put your attention on any sense that might be wafting by or near at hand. With the pollen in the air this year, I'm generally not picking up a lot of odor, except sometimes my shirts, if they're too sweaty or something like that, my body odor. Or my deodorant. What do you smell? What are the big smells? What are the subtle smells you are able to pick up right now in this moment? I invite you to just be with them. Just settle in more and more to this space. and this time that we have together. Next, with your eyes open or closed, you can do it either way. Notice what you see without attaching to them, without making any kind of judgment or assessment or anything like that. It's just sort of looking at, just noticing what is there in front of you, or if you have your eyes closed, what do you see behind your eyes? Are there patterns? Are there checkerboards? Is there light and shadow, color? Or is it black and white? It's so rare that we get to spend this kind of time with ourselves, to pay attention to the more subtle things that are around us and that are of us and that create our reality, our experience in the world. So this exercise of just noticing what we hear, what we feel, what we smell, what we see, accepting each and every one of the things that we're able to notice in the practice without trying to change anything. And lastly, see if you can pick up any taste. What do you taste in your mouth? Is there a flavor or is there no flavor? Is it your coffee or your that ice cream you just had? Whatever it is, just noticing. And even if it's nothing, noticing that there's no taste there right now. And being aware of that, just exactly as it is. And of course, it's perfect, just as it is. So I'd like you also now, staying with that sort of introspective, sensorial place. Taking 3 more long breaths, long, slow, deep breaths, allowing yourself to relax more and more with each exhale. We'll count, I'll indicate a count of 4 for the inhale and then a count of 6 for the exhale. Here we go. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Wow, look at that. I have a guest coming on. How exciting. This is thrilling. Jessica, you have returned to me. How exciting. I haven't seen you in a while. This is great. I will let you know that we're recording live. Hello. We're recording live and we're live streaming on YouTube. What a treat to have you here. Thank you for coming. How are you feeling today? Good. And so I don't know if you got a chance to do the opening meditation, the pleasure first practice of just sort of getting aware of all the sensations in our bodies and in our surroundings, what we're hearing, what we're feeling, what we're smelling, what tastes may still linger on our tongues. Yep. And we will continue from here. continue from here. I'm really excited. What I wanted to talk about today is this practice of using these mindset and pleasure tools that I use for all realms of my life. And what that means is, you know, often I'll start with this pleasure practice, like I shared, and I led everybody through. And we often can pick up from there. What's one thing that feels good right now? What feels good right now? And when you notice that, expand it. Expand it so that it occupies more space in your body. And with the slow breaths and a gentle noticing of that sensation, see it expand so that it fills perhaps your whole body. Yeah, see it expand your whole body. And allow it to expand even beyond the edges of your body and to fill the space around you. That is your personal space, your protective orb, or however you wish to think about it. That space that you consider your comfort zone, your safety zone, your personal space. Filling it up with that sensation of pleasure. Really allowing yourself to rest into it or move into it or absorb into that feeling. And you can even expand it with your breath to fill the whole space around you, the entire room, or your entire home or studio, as the case may be. And if you're outside and you happen to be watching this, you can expand it out to the trees or neighborhood that surrounds you. And even from inside our spaces, our dwellings, we can expand it out to fill the whole town. And if you feel really generous, you can move it across the whole state or country in which you presently are. Knowing that this is generated from you and for you, and it's there for you all the time. This 1% more pleasure, which you can expand into a zillion times. You can rest in it, you can float in it, you can dance in it, you can be embraced by it, and you can embrace others by it and with it. And now bring it back into your heart center, slowly as you need it to be. It can just come in gently and slowly into your heart, into your chest. To fill your heart so much with pleasure. I'm feeling mixed with joy and generosity and love. Take it all in. It's there for you to feed and nourish you anytime you desire. So the thing I wanted to talk about today, last week I talked about how every individual has the capacity to make a change in the world and to make a change in their own world and actually even in themselves, right? And a lot of my practice is about changing the state within myself through stillness, through pleasure, through mindset. And when we take care of ourselves that way, and we can slow down enough to be in that space, then we resource ourselves, we replenish ourselves for looking at the things that are going on in our lives that maybe don't feel so good or are totally distressing even. And last week I spoke about how a group of us here in the tiny little town of Great Barrington came together and worked really hard for months and months and months on designing a bylaw that would regulate short-term rentals. And in this small town, we still have annual town meetings. And we were able to finally get that bylaw to come to the annual town meeting so that the people could decide on it, not just the select boards who were elected by the people, but the actual people who showed up at the meeting could vote. And we were able to pass it with like a 2-to-1 vote. Is 207 to 111 maybe. I can't remember the numbers exactly, but it was a pretty significant pro-regulation. And the reason is because a lot of our neighborhoods are getting sort of hollowed out by people buying houses, and instead of moving a family in, they're just short-term rentaling it out all the time. And it was happening more and more. And there's such a housing crisis that people who do want to live here permanently couldn't even get those houses because the speculators were just, bidding them up and making them ridiculously expensive. So anyway, the point is, it can be, just takes one of us coming together with others to make a change like that. And right now, in terms of my creative work, I'm working on this project that I'm really super excited about called Antarctica Temporalis. And it's based on my recent trip with a whole bunch of amazing change makers that we did in March. Was it March? Yeah, March, when we went to Antarctica. And it was just really exciting to see that space, to see the grandeur of an untouched landscape, all white, all just gorgeous, untouched, undeveloped. And I literally remember standing there thinking, there's not a single Airbnb on this entire continent. Like, how radical is that? That just seems ridiculously radical now. And may it always stay that way. May Antarctica always remain free of development and short-term rentals and just, the raping and pillaging of land that we've seen for the entire human time on Earth. Anyway, so yes, may that be so. And what did I want to say? So I'm building this big project that will take the Terra Temporalis project that I did, the first one I did in 2011 at the Scranton Museum, the Everhart Museum in Scranton, Pennsylvania. And it was a very large wall that I painted this gorgeous landscape, kind of similar to the one that's in the painting back there, but it was all just powdered graphite. And powdered graphite is one of the softest forms of carbon. And one of the hardest forms of carbon are diamonds, right? They just get compacted until they're just a solid thing. So anyway, these I've done a number of these Terra Temporalis projects that involve trees and flora and just all this beautiful earth stuff. And they're always temporary. And the point of them being temporary is that, well, everything is temporary, right? We're temporary. Everything around us is temporary. But it was breaking my heart to see how disconnected people were from the land around them, from the nature and the earth and literally like the swaths of land that were just being like clear cut for a Walmart or something like that. And like people weren't noticing, people didn't care, even though there was a Walmart already down the street. They just clear cut this whole forest in order to make another one just up the street bigger. So anyway, that was heartbreaking for me. And I realized that people see art and things that are held in museums and such as really priceless and valuable things. And so my Terra Temporalis pieces are not complete until they actually get painted out, whitewashed out. So it usually takes me like 2 weeks to create the work, spending lots of time going up and down a ladder, or in Brattleboro, I was on a scissor lift, a cherry pick, whatever you call it. And yeah, it takes days and days and days to create it. And I'm just generally using, well, so far I've only just used my fingertips and the powdered graphite. I think on this next scale, I'm going to have something else because fingertips can get rubbed raw and then I'm putting blood on the wall, which is not too appealing or fun for me. So anyway, these next ones are going to focus on the Antarctica landscape, the glaciers and the icebergs, and that pristine, monumental, just unspeakable beauty. And I want to be doing them in large scale office spaces, like in a corporate lobby, in a giant museum atrium, and a public space, where people are just coming through all the time, and they can watch it be created. They can watch the creation of it, and then it will live there with 2 clocks. One is the countdown clock for the drawing, because it will live for like 90 days before I take it out. The other is the climate clock. And scientists are currently saying we have just about 7 years, not before the end of the world, don't worry, but 7 years to turn the ship around, to turn the trend around and cool down the planet. Like, don't let it continue rising, the temperatures and the greenhouse gases. But if we all work collectively together, like we did on the bylaw, right, we can turn it around and bring the temperature down so that we have a chance at living on a planet that our grandchildren, great grandchildren, all the future generations can continue to live on. We all know that that is not an easy task. And we all know that it's super daunting and, for me, terrifying. And there are a lot of times, I admit, that it feels really freaking impossible. And the thing that we all came to on this trip, this expedition to Antarctica, was that the doom and gloom stories and the reports that science and everything is putting out are not helping us feel optimistic that there could be a change or that we could do anything about it. However, when we come together and we make it fun, maybe we could get somewhere. Maybe we could actually do something. At least we'll have fun trying, right? So that's my goal, is to create this magnificent work of art, have checklist, a 90 days of climate action challenge that people can sign up for. They can do all 90 actions, or they could do one action. But imagine if we had 100,000 or 250,000 people in all these different locations where I'll do these, signing on to do at least one climate action. Well, that's 250,000 more actions than we're seeing today, right? And we can all be a part of something together with the same goal in mind, right? So that's my that's my desire, and it gives me so much pleasure to like think about that. Like, what if we could do that? And then, for example, some people on the trip were like innovators and investors and CEOs, and a whole bunch of them committed to turning their own corporations, their own companies to become not just climate neutral, but climate negative. And then also to take actions on a local, simple level, like going to our local co-op and saying, hey, why don't you consider using this kind of container instead of these plastic containers, or why don't you offer more things in glass instead of all this stuff in plastic? There's so many different ways that we can do this. We could just simply not flush the toilet every time we go to the bathroom. We could just, as a friend of mine said, mellow yellow, just let it sit for like a few times and then flush. So there's so many like actionable things. And obviously, like, not flushing your toilet is not going to slow down climate change, that one action. However, all the actions all together, and then with the momentum that's created by having a collective movement towards something, for a better future, maybe it's possible that that energy will lead to 100,000 signatures or petitions to the state representatives and the congressional leaders to take actions and divest from fossil fuels and those kinds of things that really will make a difference. Shareholders are demanding that the corporations they have stocks in buck up and actually make change. Like it's great. Like, no more extravagance. Like, just stop already. Like, we've got a crisis here. So I'm really hopeful that this can work, and that we'll at least have fun trying. And I'd rather die having fun trying than eventually leave the planet feeling utterly in despair and like there was nothing I could do and just throw up my hands, because that's not fun, right? So why was I telling you all that? Oh, part of the reason I was telling you all that is because, well, one of the things I wanted to talk about, I wasn't planning on going into all of that, but one of the things I wanted to talk about is that over the years, as an artist, as a creative activist, I've supported myself in a lot of different ways. I've gotten grants, I've had, sold lots of artwork, sometimes for a cause, for a project. I've put up loads of crowdsourcing campaigns, I guess they're called, for different projects, including that first Terra Temporalis, actually. And I dabbled in Patreon for a little bit. So I do have a Patreon channel or page, but honestly, I don't do a whole lot over there because I'm so busy doing these other projects, doing the actual art and the projects. But what I'm doing now, I'm introducing a VIP patron club. And I just set it up on a platform called Ko-fi, but it's spelled Ko-fi. So it looks like Ko-fi. So if you go over to ko-fi.com/Gabrielle Senza, you will get to my page. And there you'll see that I have created this patron VIP club. And there's the VIP 100 club, where starting at $100 or any amount above that, you would get, if you became a member of the Ko-fi club, of my VIP patron club, you would receive your name listed on my website, the patron page, an invitation to the annual VIP patron event, which I think is going to be February 23rd of 2023. You'd get a social media shout out, my eternal gratitude, and just loads and loads of love from me. And then at the next level, it's the Patron VIP 500 Club. And you can contribute $500 a month, every month, or more if you want to. And the VIP 500 Club patrons receive the name on the website, invitation to the annual VIP patron events, guest list status for all art events. So when I'm doing these gigantic Antarctica Temporalis pieces, you know, in LA or in Berlin, you will get special guest list status for any of the related events that I'm doing. Also social media shout out, and again, my eternal gratitude, and of course, loads of love, and very likely some surprises in the mail. And then the VIP 1000 Club is the next level. And again, these are like the base amounts. If people are feeling generous and they want to do $1,200 a month, they can. There's totally whatever you want to put it. It's just starting at these levels. So the VIP 1000 Club patrons receive a unique work of art created just for you, your name listed on the website patron page, invitation to the annual VIP event, the guest list status for all events, and social media shout out, my eternal gratitude, and like I said, probably some random surprises. So on this page, unlike my Patreon page rather, on the Ko-fi page, I made it really bare bones and super simple because I'm really putting all of my attention into these proposals to get out to museums and corporations that might be able to commission this work, this big Antarctica Temporalis. The other thing I forgot to mention is that they, each installation starts with a ceremony, like an opening ceremony. And I'm still working out the details in my head for that. And I think it's going to involve some performance, maybe even long, slow crawl. And I hope live music by one of my colleagues that was on Antarctica with us. And then throughout the 3 months that the project is up in the space, I'm hoping that the host sites, the sponsors, will actually run a series, a program of talks by activists, scientists, artists, all offering their work, their voices in their own ways to also inspire, educate, give some hope to anyone that's there that wants to join this movement. And then the piece, like I said, when it gets washed out, when it gets painted out, that's part of closing ceremony. And it's a really poignant, for me, it's super poignant because here I am destroying this gorgeous work that I spent a long time with. And also to be there with other humans that are feeling those emotions. It always like really chokes me up. And but it's so powerful. It's so powerful. And I'm really looking forward to sharing that experience with people. So right now I am all about getting people to inviting people into the patron the patron VIP club and supporting me on the mission to get these projects out there. And right now we're in that planning and introductory stage and connecting with people. So this is to help me be fully resourced so my team can be resourced and I can pay the people to create these things that are necessary. I can pay the bills and the light bills and all that stuff while we stay focused on just this one project. Because if anyone has known me for any period of time, me focusing on just one project is really off brand. As my son would say, totally off brand, Mom. What's up with you? And I say that because I always have so many exciting projects that are super meaningful to me, and that, so kind of like children, I don't want to let any of them go. And so typically when people would ask me, what are you up to? I would feel so overwhelmed by the number of things I was up to that I couldn't even really begin talking about them. Or if I did, I risked overwhelming them because I'd be like, well, I'm going to Berlin to do this invisibility lab. Oh, I'm doing this walk unafraid thing. Oh, I'm doing this workshop. Oh, I'm doing this giant Terra Temporalis thing. And meanwhile, we're working on this thing about, the Talcott Raidstone here in Great Barrington and getting that, blah, 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 blah. Like, that's a lot, right? So for me, the discipline and it was, I can't tell you how many people have told me, just focus on one thing, Gabrielle. For years, of course, for like 30 years, they've been telling me that. And I resisted it so much. I really resisted it because I just felt like I couldn't put anything aside, and now, like, with these really big projects, if I'm not giving it 100% of my attention, then it's not going to happen, right? Like, all the steam will evaporate and just disappear, all the momentum from our trip to Antarctica, the excitement that I have about that, and the excitement other people have about it because they've sort of been following it on social media. So I'm bumping up my membership offerings to see if we can get some people to join the Patron VIP Club at either $100 a month or $200 a month or $500 a month or $1,000 a month or $1,500 a month, whatever feels comfortable for 12-month period or beyond, even more than that. I'm hoping for 12-month commitments. And that will get us right into when I'm actually getting on a scissor lift or a cherry picker or a U-lift, whatever you call it, and making this giant Antarctica temporalis. These huge images of icebergs and the mountains and the glaciers. And I don't know if you've seen my posts on social media, but like I crawled on one of those glaciers in my dress, in my mysterious white dress, which keeps telling me to do things and to take it places. And in fact, there's a beautiful image of me there that was taken by Erica Simone. This is an incredible photographer who was on the Antarctica trip. So that photograph will be in an event that opens, I think, on the 20th in New York City called NFT NYC. And it's this amazing event where people are coming together to talk about climate and innovation and all kinds of amazing things. Unfortunately, I can't be there or I won't be there. I could change my plans, but what I'm doing is I'm going to, is it Denver? No, I'm going to Boulder with my partner to be a part of the Erotic Blueprint Coach live event. And we're really excited about it because all of our colleagues that we've met through the program, we actually haven't spent any in real life time with yet. Like all these, 2+ years of knowing each other, and we still haven't met in person. So I'm really excited about that. And that happens the same week. So I won't be in New York for the NFT event. Anyway, so those were the things I really wanted to share. And since I have a live guest here today, I am wondering, Jessica, if you have anything on your mind that you want to talk about.
Just nothing off the top of my head. I mean, I guess I've been thinking lately about, sort of like, I guess what had just been coming up was sort of like how to sort of like celebrate the moments of, like when grief is moving, when like if we take grief as like sort of an avenue of love, or like a part of the spectrum of love, right? And so when grief is moving, sometimes there's all this kind of big thing. And I've been doing this I did this deep time walk that like really took, me into this like earth time, and like kind of really brings the self into a perspective, I guess.
What did you call it?
It's called a deep time walk.
Oh, nice.
yeah, and it's this gentleman out of the UK does, and I get that there's an app now that you can do, but it's sort of like the walk is 4.6 kilometers, and like each kilometer is represents a billion years of Earth's development, right? Time, and
Wow.
and like doing sort of like a guided meditation with that, or like even like sort of this idea that the anthropometric of like the distance between your fingertips and your heart being a million years in that sort
Wow.
of like scale.
I
Yeah,
love,
it's nice, right? But it's
yeah.
like, but it really is just sort of like it was crushing in a way, like it brought this like almost like the pain of the earth into my body. Like I mean, I
Mm.
there's narratives that I have too, but it's sort of like it was such a bigger grief than I sort of would normally think to be mine. So, and then with everything moving in the world, I think that there's a lot of that grief that's moving. So, but one thing I like about grief is that there's a lot of joy. Like, when the storm comes through and you're like allowed to feel, you feel all that stuff going and the tears come and everything. There's like this buoyancy in between, those storms and a lot of joy. And so I've just been trying to sort of like notice that kind of like the waves that of those kinds of things that are happening in the world today. So this is
Oh,
one of them.
I love that. So can you tell me more about the waves? Can you tell me more about the depths and the highs and everything, sort of what sort of might trigger things, or and what you found so far in your process?
Yeah, I mean, I've been for some years now. I've been having sort of like all sorts of visions, and like from what I understand, it's sort of like like an intuition that's growing, I guess. And so what's what like just things in nature will trigger it all the time, and like I've been taking these series of photographs of like it's almost like I'll like go into the ground and like see all the detritus and the microplastics along with the rocks, and how there's this really sort of like I call them micropolises, where there's just these little structures that are like as architectural as any sort of building we have, but these sort of accidental sort of spaces where like it feels like there's a saturation of life all the way through, and like we can't take anything for granted. And so it's just really trying to be this aware on a really granular level of how we affect everything, like up and down and all around in like really important ways, that like to like honor ourselves for like our process of like being here, and like to bring I think it seems like to me that the access to being with everything as it is by
Mm,
like trying to find places of healing where like we socialize and kind of kill off parts of ourselves, those kinds of things, like oh
yeah,
that one's not okay, or the inner critic. And it
right.
seems, and I've been trying to sort of bring awareness of like all that space, and like how do I bring peace within myself, because I feel like there's with all the projections we do, if we have the peace internally and actually do heal those relationships with ourselves, those aspects of ourselves, then it seems like those would project as well, and we would be seeing a different world in a lot of ways.
Oh, absolutely. I'm 100% with you. And I think we're socialized to not allow ourselves to feel a lot of big emotions. Like a lot of us grew up for whatever reasons being terrified of anger or rage or conflict of any kind. And so would do everything in their power to avoid it. Like that was our coping strategy, right? And then like I think I hear you saying that you're noticing that you're living through experiencing real emotions, and even real emotions that are coming up not only from those maybe those wounded parts inside you that still want to be expressed or still feeling pain, but also what you're seeing in the landscape, what you're hearing in the news, what you're seeing on television about climate crisis and stuff. And it's like we can no, I think what I'm hearing and noticing is that we can stand in the face of that and and feel that wind blowing really hard and just feel still so connected. We're not You're not running away from that.
There's this way in which it like because of again, and also sort of feeling that it's not all mine.
Yeah.
There's a way in which it like it can feel I don't know, there's almost like it's like the self kind of gets diminished in terms of an ego, because it's sort of like it really can start feeling part of things.
Mhm.
And like and almost like that the heat of the earth is, can kind of like sort of roll in the body too.
Yes.
And and all that. But yeah, so I don't know, this it's all just kind of really cool stuff. I mean, one thing that I thought of when you said about Antarctica is that one of the things with the deep time walk that they mentioned is like sort of how the water was created, and the cooling of the earth and sort of the atmosphere happens. And one thing they said was like, this is all the water, like that's when the water was made. There's no new water ever. This is all the same water that was
Right.
made when water was.
Cycling through, right? Yeah, I know.
But there's something that's
We
nice
keep
about
putting
that, like when you're talking about your graphite thing too, like sort of there's something about that sort of the way in which you're moving that powder around into different projects as well, and through that space, it seems like it's sort of like the water is sort of like, that's the water kind of.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Moving it from one place to another,
Mhm.
and eventually it'll be moved away again. Oh, I love that. Yeah. So how do you take care of yourself? What do you do when you feel like huge emotion come up, or feeling like what might not even be yours, but it's coming through you, the emotion of the land, or maybe of other generations or whatever?
I mean, honestly, I just let myself cry it out, and I really get like move away from narrative. I do a lot of meditation practice, Vipassana mostly practice. So and like very embodied, trying like, and this is something that's not necessarily very typical for me, but like really being very conscious of like dropping into the body and having that sort of like, I'm not very good with like sort of attending to breath as an anchor, but like I can use my pelvis, I can use like sort of the base of my spine. And there's something that's very sort of like, there's something that's very nurturing in that sort of space of my body, I think, in
Right.
terms of like having that, like, and also like sort of, it's a sturdy part of us, we are strong people, and we like,
Yeah.
we take a lot. So there's a way in which there's like resourcing from like a part of our bodies that's just really, really strong. Yeah.
That's true. That's so true. And there's so many people that talk about, like pussy power, pussy, all that kind of stuff. And another coach of mine now calls it genitals, whatever your genitals are. People can, source their energy from that and use it to give them fuel, really, right?
Yeah.
And that stability.
Yeah, and I mean, I think there's all sorts of ways it gets used inappropriately, because
Sure.
we have no structure in our culture to like actually learn appropriate ways to use our sexual powers. I don't think, especially women, we trade it off and transactionally, I think, a lot, instead of actually sort of directly using it and embracing it.
Right. For the power that it can give us. Yeah. It's true.
And for itself, as opposed to for security or something.
Yeah. That's another big whole topic right there. And yet it's so related to the earth so often, right? Because the earth gives us life, and she's referred to as mother of Gaia, right? And so it's there's a lot of material there.
Well, I also think that the agricultural, like how agriculture has gone into sort of like destroying the earth in all sorts of ways. There's also like that's the root word of fuck is like to plow. So there's something about how we use language around the erotic as well. Yeah, it can be, that can also be empowering or not. Yeah.
Right. Well, I'm really encouraged that there are more and more people that are aware of those things and are shifting our culture, shifting our awareness and language around that.
Yeah.
I feel like there are a lot more people way more articulate about it than I am. And it's encouraging, though, like to see so many people talking about it. It's just a phenomenal amount of people talking about shifting the way we talk about things, the way we name things, decolonializing language, right? And
good luck. We can make up another one, but
yeah.
But it's all just, I think, it's very layered. I think language makes reality, but so does sort of numbers, and sort of myths and erotics and earths and various other things. So there's all these layers of different things we can always, I think there's millions of things we can do. I think people like are I always think that people shouldn't give up on the way that like little change can make can have big results.
Right.
Because I think like sometimes it's not a linear projection. It really is sort of incremental, and sometimes then it just boom and it'll go. So
Yeah.
there's something nice about working on the little things that we can do.
Yeah, I think it's really vital to constantly remind ourselves of that, because every time someone says like, oh, it's hopeless, oh, they're taking this away, oh, we're, being rolled back and all these things. True, that's the perspective right now. It's not the only perspective, right? And so, and like, yes, sure, that is the situation at the moment. What are we going to do about it? Right? Because we're
also able to
powerless.
we're also able to see systems in like a bald sort of open way, that like where we can actually attack it in a way that we never could though. So I mean, there's all that stuff happening, but there's also like an exposure of a lot of systems power that we couldn't ever, that was really blocked from view before. There's something really interesting about like how to get in and work a little bit on that stuff,
right?
Like you were with your housing, the housing thing, and just any kind of place where you can sort of scratch at that, the way that capitalism and things will just really wreck everything.
Yeah. And it's just about creating balance. It's not like we want to eradicate all Airbnbs. They're awesome, but Airbnb was literally writing to all the hosts in Great Barrington saying, go vote against this. This is going to harm you as hosts. And it's like, actually, Airbnb just doesn't want to give up that market because it's a really strong market here.
Yeah.
But the humans here, the humans who live here, want neighbors that they can recognize. And they want to be able to have their children on tricycles on the street instead of, people that are just coming up for the weekend once in a while or once, So, yeah. And there's that great Margaret Mead quote, right? Don't ever doubt that a small group of people can make change. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. So that's where we're at, I think, still and always, to not lose hope.
There's the one that I think goes well with that. I want to say it's Junie Beasley, but I'm not sure about that. But it's like, we are the ones we were waiting for. We are the guys we were waiting for. Yeah, that one.
Yes. Yes. In fact, I just took off a different shirt that I had that said, we are our ancestors' once and future wish, or something like that. It's similar. The ones I've been waiting for. So that's exciting. So is there anything I can help you with, or did you want to just come on and hang out, or?
I just hadn't been back to see you with my schedule since like February, and so I was just really curious about what you were up to, and it was nice to hear so much about your projects and things like that. But yeah, I'm just kind of just wanted to drop in and see how it was going.
I'm so glad you did. I'm really glad you did, and you picked a good one to jump in on, because the last couple I've sort of been like, I don't really know what I'll talk about. I did talk about this short-term rentals and other things, but today I was just like, you know what, I have this membership thing that I want to, bring all my collectors and patrons that have supported me in the past together and really into one place so we can move together. And then also about this Antarctica project. I'm really excited about it, obviously. And and in fact, I have a grant to finish up before I go pick up my partner at the airport. So I think, we'll probably end pretty soon, but I'm really glad you came on and that you told me about the deep time walk. Oh, I know. When you were talking about that, the musician I spoke of, who I'm hoping will do the opening ceremonies for these events, his name is Murray Hidari.
Mm-hmm.
And he has a company called Mind Travel. I was thinking Thriving Mind, but it's Mind Travel. And he just did a walk across the Brooklyn Bridge, meditative music. He does amazing piano music. And he used music and continues to use music to help heal grief. And for him, it was the loss of his sister in a terrible accident years and years and years ago. And it helped him get through that. And then he found that it was helping so many other people in all different circumstances to just be listening. And where are you based? Are you in the West Coast?
I'm in Twin Cities, the Twin Cities, in Minnesota.
Okay, Minnesota. Um,
For
uh,
now.
yeah, awesome. So, well, if you ever get into New York, he does these monthly performances now at Sony Hall, which is a
Okay.
3D, surround sound, quite beautiful.
Yeah.
And he has a piano that's covered in moss that he had an artist create,
Oh, nice.
totally covered in moss. Anyway, so I wanted to share that the mind travel music and
Cool.
his
I'll check
music.
that out. I
Yeah.
was going to ask you just like as an aside, and I don't know that you'll have an answer, but like I wanted to like sort of put in the name William Popel to ask about how you if you like consider his work with your crawls and like that kind of thing.
What's his
So
name?
William Pope L.
Oh, yeah.
William, yeah,
Yeah.
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 And he's done like the crawls on Broadway and things like that. Yeah, Great White Way.
Right. Right. Yes. I haven't, I know about his work because anytime
Yeah.
I talk about crawling, and I haven't seen it in real life,
Yeah.
but
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
really,
I mean, it's pretty cool, but it just sort of like came to mind as like just the connection with the crawling, and I think just with so much going on with white supremacy and race, it's sort of I think always nice to sort of like see what's happening in a diverse spectrum of
definitely
how people are dealing with that with the same kind of crawling. We're all crawling out of somewhere.
right. We're all doing a long, slow crawl. In fact, one of my other projects, once this one is done, staying focused on one, is getting a lot of people into this to do a long, slow crawl, to do a whole series of interviews and to get photography and video of them in the same weird dress. I'll tell you about the dress another time.
Yeah. I'll look at pictures though. I'll look at the pictures and see what.
Yeah, there are a couple. You'll see them on the Instagram feed probably. Yeah, it's quite a mysterious thing. Like,
Nice.
I still can't understand it, but
Yeah.
definitely connected to that
Yeah.
earth experience somehow from
Yeah,
generations.
I used to use like
yeah.
ceremonial dresses from like the Seventh-day Adventists and things like. I mean, I don't know where those came. I started like with slips, and then it was some these white baptismal gowns that I was
Oh,
wearing.
wow.
Yeah, interesting. This kind of comes up. Ritual. There's always that sort of sense of, and we're always kind of in ritual and performance. So anyway,
Yeah.
it was really a pleasure to see you, and thank you so much
So
for
great
chatting
to
with
see
me.
you. Thank you for being here with me today.
See
Take
you
care.
again.
Let's keep in touch.
Yes, please. Okay.
All
Talk
right,
to you
take
later.
care.
Bye-bye.
Bye. So that's it for Thriving Live today. Thank you for joining us, and